Fine on the Inside was curated to switch the narrative, to show that it's never too late to shift your mindset, heal your heart, and live the life that you truly desire. Sis, you are magic. You just haven't discovered it yet. But in order to get to the goal, you have to do a little bit of digging, getting through all the hard stuff to allow your true self to shine. Because yes, you are beautiful. But how is your soul really feeling? Are you fine on the inside? Hey y'all, welcome back to Fine on the Inside. This is your girl Jazz, and I am here with my girl Candace. Y'all know she's been on the podcast a couple times, so welcome back, Candace.
Thank you, Jazz.
Thank you for sliding. And we also have self-mastery coach and author Bradley Martin. Hey, Bradley.
Hey, what's good? How you doing today?
Good. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate you for having me.
Y'all, we have 2 guests on the podcast today, so I'm super hyped. It's going to be good. We're about to tap all the way in. So, Bradley, Candace, you've been here before a couple times. So, Bradley, what we usually do is start off with like a couple icebreakers, and then we'll just get into the conversation. Okay?
That sounds good.
So, the first icebreaker is, what is a hobby or activity you think everyone should try at least once?
Everybody should travel and leave and go to a completely different country.
That's a good one.
Yes, that's what I think. Everybody should just go to different, countries and like kind of really dive into different cultures.
Do you think they should go by themselves or like with people?
By themselves, alone.
Yeah, I think that's really like
that's deep.
I think that's a good one because I've traveled like by myself and with people, and I feel like when you're by yourself, you get to like really explore. You don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing. You don't have to like clash and bump heads. Not saying everybody does that, but it's just like you get to really like experience when you're by yourself. So,
I agree.
Yeah,
and definitely learn. I think you get to learn about yourself so much more when you're by yourself. Like you start really learning the things that you like or don't like, or how you like to move and not move. So I think that's a very powerful thing too.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. All right, and then the second question was, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
If I go back in time, probably really don't try to fit in. Like embrace being different and like go with that.
Okay.
That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. I think that's important for sure. And it's crazy when we're kids, it's like we really just want to fit in. We want to be like accepted. And then like, as we're growing up and, like you talk about your book, like, we're like taking these pieces away from us, and then we just finally realize, well, some people don't realize, but a lot of us realize that, we haven't been ourselves. And it's like, when you finally feel free to do that, it's like, damn, like it's like a whole new world. So not fitting in, it's like, yeah, don't try to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
I be trying to tell my kids, like, you don't have to try to, do what everybody else is doing, but they're kids. So
I think overcommitment can play a part in that as well. Like sometimes we are quick to commit to things fully without really exploring like what we're committing to, in a sense, and we can end up really missing the path that we most align with. So yeah, I think that's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure.
Trying to fit in, you can misalign yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes down to so when people try to fit in, what happens is like you take on the identity of the thing. So like example is like when I played football, it's like I was like Bradley the football player, or everybody knew me as Bradley the football player. So you take on this identity, and then that become who you are. And it's like, no, you're so much more than that.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we like attach to certain things, and that become our identity. Oh, like I'm the singer, or I'm this, and it's like, no, that's just something that you do, but that's not who you are.
And then it's like when you hold yourself to that identity, it can really like break you down. Like say if that thing doesn't work out, it's like, all right, Bradley's a football player, but now I don't play football anymore. So what do I do now? You know what I mean? So that's why it is important, to have, whatever you love to do, have those, different parts of you. I think that's like super important. So, Bradley, can you just tell us like a little bit about yourself, your book and everything?
Yeah, so again, my name is Bradley Martin. I'm a self-mastery strategist, author, also a retreat facilitator. I've been living abroad for the last 8 years. Like one day, I kind of just felt like trapped in Philly, to be honest with you. Like I felt like nothing made sense to me. and I needed to get out. Like, I needed to get away. Like mentally, I just felt like I was kind of confined into something that I didn't fit into.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I just decided to move across the world, and then for some reason the place happened to be China. I moved to China, been living there, and then I thought that just moving out of Philly would like change my life and everything would be like all my problems would go away, but that didn't happen, of course. So over there, I started really kind of like diving in and doing some real inner work. I started really confronting some, I guess, the demons that I might have, or the dark side of me, and things like that, and then worked on like removing it. And then now, I'm a certified NLP practitioner and coach. And now I'm really helping people kind of like break down those self-imposed barriers that we place on ourselves, that society places on us, so that we can like, reach our full potential or unlock who we really are. Because a lot of us like hold on to these identities that's not really us. So just trying to get people to be authentic.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, what made you, like, what was like your switch? So like, all right, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna, start doing the work. I'm gonna move and do all that. Like, was there like a key point that just had you like go?
Yeah, so it started like, it's like little seeds at first, to be honest with you. So actually, first I was in college, and I was playing football, and I had this professor. She was my chemistry teacher. She just kept getting me to do all these type of projects and stuff like that. Like, and I'm like, I was doing some. I go speak at another school, whatever the case is, and then it's like every time it was something new. She was like, well, do this. And then one day she was like, hey, like, you should go to South Africa. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I was like met with this opportunity to go play in like or not go play, go try out, like have an All-Star game in like Florida that you can try to go pro. Let's say you can go down there and play like a combine for Division II players. And I filled out the scholarship, and I didn't think I would get it. The only reason I filled it out because I was like, I can give it to my black ass. I'm just being honest with you. I looked at everybody that was inside the program. I was like, ain't nobody in there like me, so not give it to me. So I filled it out. I get the scholarship, but I didn't have a passport. And the professor was like, here, like, go down here, take this and go down there.
Wow.
So I get down. I think it's around 2nd Street, the place. So I'm down like around 2nd and Chestnut. I go down there and I give them my folder and stuff like that. And they was like, "Yo, come back in 2 hours." I go out, go have a drink and everything. I come back, I had a passport.
Wow.
Like literally like that, and I'm like, wait a minute. So as I'm driving home, I started like asking myself like why is it that I'm always turning down everything else just to play football? And then I started like kind of like processing and thinking about like the way my life was turned out, and I started asking myself the question like, well, who was Bradley, like, if not the football player? So then I was like, I probably needed to do something different. So then I took the opportunity and I went to South Africa. So when I went to South Africa, like, I was out there and I just was kind of, how sometimes in Philly I feel like we got this concept where we just want to be too cool for everything.
Yeah.
So like that was me out there. I'm like, certain things I just like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not singing karaoke. I'm not skinny dipping. Like, what? This white people stuff. Like, everything out there I was saying was white people stuff. But then I started asking like, why am I saying this?
Right.
And it's like I was worried about like what people all the way back in Philly was gonna be thinking or saying about me. But I was like thousands and thousands of miles away. So that kind of made me think like, wait, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Out there I had the opportunity to stay with like host families. And it was the first time I ever started like kind of like journaling and then even practicing like empathy. Because what happens is like I was numb to like everything here in Philly, like numb to violence, numb to murder, all of this stuff. But when I got out there, I was able to like start connect with nature and things like that. So when I come back to Philly, like it feel like nothing made sense. I'm like, this ain't normal. Like all the things I thought was normal wasn't normal. So I thought it was normal, people, whatever, drugs, killing, all this stuff. It's just what it is. But then when I came back, I felt like it wasn't normal. When I got real hyper, a real thing that happened to me was like I was real hypersensitive to like everything. So before I was numb, but when I came back, I couldn't even watch. Remember Warstar?
Yeah.
I couldn't watch it when I first came back. I couldn't even watch people get like hit and stuff.
Yeah.
So I went through this like change like that, and I really didn't feel like I could fit in. I just looking for a way to get out, and then that's what like sparked me to like look for other opportunities to go out.
Wow.
And I went to China. Yeah.
And then in his book, I have read that you had like was crying like a lot of tears, like shedding past some things that you had worked through. Like, can you speak on the importance, like, especially from a man's perspective, like shedding tears? Like, what does that mean for you?
So yeah, all right. In the book, when I was shedding tears, so basically, I stayed in South Africa for 6 months, and I got so connected to the place that like when I was leaving, I felt like I was like pieces of me was also getting lost. So it kind of was just like, like I don't know. It wasn't tears of like, it wasn't a tear. This one wasn't like, it wasn't like tears of no sadness or like that. It just was like, damn, I just feel like I was losing pieces of me. and I built over this 6 months. So that's kind of what it was. It was like it was more of like appreciation of that country, of those people, those connections, those relationships that I made, kind of like that. So it's like when I was on an airplane, I'm just like, I don't know, and I had that feeling like, dang, like, am I ever going to like get this again?
Yeah.
So it was more so like that.
You know what's crazy? I feel like a lot of times, like I've had moments where I pretty much like grieved my old self. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I feel like before I took certain steps, like in my spiritual journey or whatever journey I was going through, I was scared to take those steps, not knowing, like, you know, because I didn't know what was on the other side. And then once I started to feel myself, like, let those things go, it's like, dang, like, always was like this person, and now I have to like let go of who I am, or I know it's not good for me. I know like it's not working for me, but just always having that, it's like kind of like almost grief. You know what I mean? So when you said about like the tears, I feel like that kind of resonated with me because I've had like a couple times where it's like, yeah, like I'm literally grieving my old person, but even though I'm shedding these layers, like I'm really shedding these layers for me to be who I was always meant to be. You know what I mean? Like, even though I was that old person, those beliefs, like how you mentioned in the book, those old beliefs, those things from before, those weren't even my ideas. You know what I mean? Things that people have taught us, you know, they didn't even, some people that taught us these things, they didn't even know what was going on. You know what I mean? So, yeah, just being able to, you know, let go of that, but just understand, like, it's okay to grieve your old self. You know, I feel like a lot of people just hold on so tight because they don't know what's on the other side.
And because sometimes being uncomfortable, even if it's toxic, it's comfortable, it's familiar.
Yeah.
So it could be a little bit more challenging trying to let go of those old patterns. But yeah, sometimes you really just, I think like sometimes like when you do hit that, what you call rock bottom, it's like you either pivot into something new or you choose to just kind of stay where you are. But I feel like you got to have a certain type of awareness to make that decision. And sometimes people just don't have that, which is why I would say a coach or a therapist, somebody, you need to pull on that person just to kind of help you pivot in. But in all reality, I feel like we all have like this magic within us that's covered by trauma.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility to uncover that, you know? So.
Yeah, I think, speaking of what you just said about like rock bottom, so I just think this is misconception that everybody think that they got to hit rock bottom in order to make that pivot. And I just think that that's the thing that's wrong with society. It's like you don't have to hit rock bottom to do the work, but for some reason, like, none of us like want to listen or be obedient in a way, so that like that's what kind of happened. So that's why you see like a lot of brothers here in Philly, like they go to prison, and then that's when they kind of like start to be able to hear the voice of God for some reason. They go to prison, now they come out, whatever, whether they be Muslim, whether they be Christian. This is why this happened, because it's like it's their first time in their life where they actually sat down in silence and they don't have any distractions. But like we can do that ourselves. Like, that's why it's important for us to like, you know, get away, sit down sometimes with yourself so that you can hear the voice. But it's just sad that most people gotta like hit rock bottom or go through this like these traumatic experiences in order to like hear the voice of God or even to make that pivot. But the thing that happens is like it come with all this other trauma. So like imagine people that go to jail, they come out with like PTSD now, and now they kind of like they won't be able to like communicate. They're not able to get around people. So all these other baggage that come with. So I'm just a believer that like if you just want to like sit and do the uncomfortable work first, right, and like kind of let go of that familiarity. That's what happens. Like we holding on to stuff so much.
Yeah.
Our identity, the people, the places, and stuff like that. And we realize that that's the thing that's dragging us down. Like, if only we would, like, open our hands, then we can receive so much more.
It's so true. From a spiritual aspect, I think about how when you do take time to sit, you look at the prophets. We look at, like, people like Dr. Martin Luther King and, you know, from a spiritual aspect, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Abraham, like, all those people who were so great but had to go through so much.
Yeah.
So like instead of you physically having to hit rock bottom yourself, you can take time to reflect and look back at people who came before you to see like what they've went through and how they navigated through that. And sometimes those people went through the trials and didn't come out the way they necessarily would have wanted to. But I feel like the past is like a reflection of so many things, and it's just like all how we perceive it.
Yeah, Yeah, no, definitely. I think that enough people probably don't learn from other people, cause like that's why reading is actually so important, right? Cause like you can learn so much from reading, and you don't have to go through it. Yeah. And like even for me, like even when I started coaching, it's like I went through this whole journey, and it's like it took so long. Like it took me so many years to like really like knock down so many pieces of my armor, or even realize like what that armor was, and why it was there, and how it was affecting my life, how it was affecting my relationships and things like that. And it's like, what's the point of you going through that? Somebody that's 26 years old, 25 years old. What's the point of you spending another 10 years figuring it out, where you can, talk to somebody that's been through it, read a book, and you can go through that. Oh, dang, let me do this a little bit different. Or I know like if I do this particular route, this is the outcome that's possible.
Right.
So I think enough people don't really pay attention to what's going on. And I think that's one of the things that I was blessed with when I was growing up. Like I just was like an observer. Like, wait a minute, okay, I'm not gonna do that. That one I'm not doing, so I'm not gonna do that. Or that didn't work for him, I'm definitely not gonna do that. Or let me try this, and that's kind of what helped me out a lot.
One thing I think though, a lot of us, like especially our generation, is shifting. Like I don't know if you guys notice it, but I feel like we're making it cool to, be self-aware and to find spirituality. I feel like the more people that talk about it, the more people are going to listen. It takes time. But I definitely feel like I feel the shift. A lot of us, are really doing the work, but also a lot of us have come from crazy situations or whatever that, we kind of had no choice. But I feel like if we continue to do like all of us are doing, I feel like the work, helping others heal, helping others become self-aware, trying to help people be fine on the inside. As long as we are, following our purpose and continuing to put out our messages, people really need this. We never know who might hear it. Somebody who might not be at rock bottom, and they might hear something that we say, like, that might resonate with them. Like, okay, I didn't think of it that way. But I definitely think that there's becoming, like, a shift, and I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of shifts going on in the world right now, in different places. So I think more people becoming aware, maybe some people too aware. I also think there's a shift of, like, fear going on right now. So it's like it's this big fear that's going on in the world right now, or energy around. So some people are just doing a lot of things out of fear too. That's something that I'm noticing. Or they worrying about like, oh, well, this is wrong or this is right, and they focusing on the wrong things too.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of awareness going on, but because there's so much like information out there, and so many things to see on social media, so many people got podcasts now. They're talking about so many different things, and then so people are aware, but it's like misinformed information sometimes. And that's why it's also, like I said, important to always kind of like learn to like slow down and kind of disconnect from these things so that you can hear your own voice. Because the truth is, like, most people not hearing their own voice. They're hearing all the outside noise.
Right, and it's like what really resonates with you, because you can hear a bunch of stuff, but just because somebody says something don't mean you got to do it that way. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard things where it's like, take what resonates with you. You know what I mean? Like, people teach, and those things may be facts, but just because they're facts doesn't mean like that aligns with what you should be doing. So like you said, taking that time to really like sit with yourself, figure out like what works for you, what doesn't, what pieces you want to take, and be okay with that. Like being present like with ourselves, and just like we know the right answers for us. We know what we need. If we listen to our intuition, we listen to our guts, we know what we need. Nobody can tell us, when to do something, they can tell us, but we know internally when it's time for us to push play. So
I like that. I like how you said push play.
Yeah,
it's deep.
But yeah, so I just wanted to touch on we were saying people, I kind of mentioned about being present. I wanted to talk about how people, kind of go to like vices, and a lot of us are becoming self-aware, but then also kind of like stuck in that kind of like almost like old life. You know what I mean? Like, they're doing better, they're doing the work, but still attached to, kind of holding on to that armor, those things that they built up to protect them. So, why do you feel like, people might do that?
So I think with vices, it's like, first of all, it's comfortable. Normally, like, your vice is very a comfortable thing, and it's something that you're familiar with, and it's just really hard to like let go of things that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
That's why you see like a lot of people, they won't even move out the city,
Yeah.
it's like, even though a lot of like madness can be going on, but it's like you get comfortable and it's familiar,
Yeah.
so it become the norm. So I think that's one of the things, and it got a strong hold. So if you think about like a rocket ship, and when a rocket ship is going into space, like when they first take off, it's boom, it go off, and then when they get to the atmosphere or the gravitational pull, they need those extra thrusters to like really get away, but it's pulling it down.
Yeah.
Because it's still closer to gravity. So it's like when you so close to those vices, the pull is so strong that it still got a hold on you.
Yeah,
you need to you really need to like get away from those vices enough, and then once you get past that gravitational pull, that's when the other thrusters come out, and then you'll see like the spaceship is just like, it just float.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy.
And I think that's kind of what we got to do with like everything. You got to get away from the gravitational pull, whatever that may be. So if it's the drug, if it's the women, if it's the city, whatever it may be, the family, like you got to get far enough away from it so that they can't keep pulling you down. Because I think we kind of we take it for granted how strong those pulls are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. One thing I say, like, we are like what we're around. I've mentioned that on a couple podcasts, but like what we listen to, where we live, our friends, what, like, even like the people we be around, like what they're doing, we're probably doing the same thing. They say birds of a feather flock together. And a lot of times we'd be like, oh no, but that's really the truth. You know what I mean? Like, in some way, you relate to those people. Y'all connected in some way. So it's like, if you're around a bunch of people who are not, doing the like things you want to do, or don't align with like your mission, it's going to be easy for you to get thrown off. You know what I mean? So I think environment is like a big thing.
Yeah, so I think environment is a big thing, and then I think the other real big thing is like too many people trying to do it alone, and that can mean a lot of things. I think like some people trying to do it by themselves, they're not including God in that situation when we're trying to like remove these things that's holding on to us, and then also like some type of mentor or guidance. Like I think like especially for men, I just think that we got like this lone wolf mentality, and we just think like we supposed to just take care of everything will be okay, we can do it on our own. But the truth is like you can't do these things on your own.
Yeah.
Like you need some help, you need some community, you need some support.
Yeah.
On both sides, like in spiritually you need some support, and then here physically you need some support. And I think sometimes we always want to like do everything on our own, and that's one of the things that also kind of like hold us back. And then some people kind of not even aware of those like vices sometimes. Like some people are, but some people not really aware of what the vice is and how it's restricting them from what they want to do. Like I don't think people see the connection between the two. So for example, somebody might think like they're doing everything right, and then they're not getting where they want to get in life. Like they be like, oh, I've been working really, really hard, and I'm doing this, but for some reason I'm still not seeing what I really want to see out of it. And then it's like it's usually something that they holding on to, a vice, a habit, a pattern that they just won't let go of.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that that's the thing that's really keeping them from getting through that door.
Yeah. It's crazy. I was talking to somebody recently about that, but like in a relationship aspect. So, sometimes we hold on to people, but it's like maybe your person is on the other side of, your person's there, but because you're holding on to this other person that's not for you, you just haven't been aligned with them yet. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like in a lot of different aspects, like us holding on to those things and not being aware that those things can hold us back. But like you said, like sitting with yourself, doing the work, you know what I mean? Like figuring out, okay, I've been doing all this. what is not working? And you gotta ask yourself like the hard questions to find out what it is.
Yes. So even in my book, I talk about this too. So I talk about like I think the key is like asking yourself the right questions, and then answering them honestly too. Mm-hmm. So I think people are asking themselves questions, but I just think a lot of people get stuck on why. So like, and why is important, but I think people get too stuck on it, and people don't understand that like the way our brains is programmed, like. When you ask yourself why, you're always going to be able to come up with a reason to make it make sense for you. You say in a relationship, why you cheat? Well, because this happened. Or whatever it can be. Yeah. Well, why you still drinking? Well, because I felt this way at the time. And if you start just shifting a little shift and asking like, well, like, you know, how is drinking affecting me from getting where I want to get to? Right. Or like, what is the thing that's stopping me from going to the next place? You start asking these questions, your brain will do something different, and it will kind of give you a different answer. Yeah. But we program to always say like, oh, well, why you do this, or why this happened to me? And it's like, no, like, what can I do differently next time to change, right? And things like that. So I think it's also about, like I said, answering the right questions and then answering them honestly, and then actually real difficult questions, because it's almost like, what am I doing? How am I getting in my own way? Like, how am I showing up myself every day? That's like that. And then if you can answer that question honestly, you can get a lot of places. But sometimes like we'll just be like, oh, like, well, I don't know why. Then we'll say stuff like, it's just me. Like, it's just who I am. Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, how is you being who you are keeping you in the same place that you've been at all this time?
Right. Or we'll play like the blame game.
I was just about to say that, because I think when you ask him, like, I listened to this podcast. It's called, his name is Rob Dow, Mindset Mentor. Love him. When you asking yourself why, it's not to make an excuse, but it's to further reflect, to see like how you can, how can I get to that how, like the who, what, where, when, and why, how, all those things. Yeah. Why, so when I say, all right, well, why do I keep meeting the same type of man? Oh, I'm just, I got 10 kids. That's not the real reason why. Because now you're going to have to further take a step in and find out, well, why do you have those many kids then? So it's all about, like, self-reflecting, digging deep. You want to laugh? I'm just saying, don't use why.
I'm laughing because you don't have
No, I'm just using that as an excuse. I mean, as an example. Okay. But I'm just saying, because we'll say, ask why. But we're using it more as an excuse instead of a way to reflect, to get to the root issue. It's a root issue. It's not just because you're like that. Yeah. It's other things as to the why.
Yeah, and I feel like, people, they hold on to that because they are scared to do the work, or they are scared to hold themselves accountable. You know what I mean? Just like whatever excuse they can hold on to, like, okay, I have 10 kids.
Yeah, it could be painful.
But it's like, you just gotta be like open with yourself, like, all right, this is it. But that doesn't mean you can't do something with 10 kids. You know what I mean? You can still live out your dreams, or you can still have a successful relationship, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But a lot of people are scared, so it's like those excuses. We pretty much, hold
it's that negative self-talk.
Yeah, that's
point
true.
Blank. Yeah.
I think it's just like that fear of change. I just think some people, we underestimate, like, it is a very uncomfortable thing and a daunting challenge. Like when you look at yourself in the mirror and then you see your true self, like you're like, damn, like this is actually what I did to keep myself here. And so even for me, like this is something that happened to me. Like I talk about this in the book a little bit, but even when I was like dealing with women. And it's like, I had to really ask myself, like, yo, like, all right, Bradley, like, so why you sleeping with all these women? And it's like, yo, because I like sleeping with women. It feel good. And I'd be like, I'm being honest with them. I'm telling them, like, this is all it is. But then I start asking them, like, okay, how am I affecting them? Like, when I'm sleeping with somebody, and then after we get to sleep, I don't want to be touched, or I don't want no communication after that. And it's like, once I read that, like, damn, like, all right. So now I start asking myself, like, damn, how is it affecting that other person? Like, and I can start feeling like one of those things that happen when you start like doing like a lot of the inner work, and you start really connecting with yourself. Like you start to connect with nature and people. You can feel. So I was able to feel like when I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? I can feel the disconnect between me and a person. So I might have slept with a person, and then now I don't want to be touched or whatever. I'm moving away when they're trying to touch me or lay on my shoulder or something like that. And even though nothing being said, I can feel that they feel rejected.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of made me question, like, damn, so why you even sleep with somebody if you're not going to want them to lay up on you, if you don't want to really lay with them after? And then once I start asking myself honestly, like, all right, damn, and that's kind of where I was able to make that change at, to be honest. I was like, all right, like, well, if I don't even want to kiss anybody or if I don't even want to, like, lay with nobody, then what's the point of me sleeping with them?
Right. And then also, I think, too, like, when it comes to men, because I feel like it's the norm, you know, for, like, men, it's cool for men to sleep around. It's not really much to be said about that. But then I started to wonder, like, do you know how valuable you are? Like, as a man, to be, no, everybody don't deserve to even get that part of you.
I'll tell you how I tricked myself, honestly. Like, I was just telling somebody this. So, like, one of the things I did with this, I said that to me, and I was just saying, like, it's going to sound crazy, but I'm just like, all right, like, yo, you got the golden dick. Why you getting it to everybody?
For real.
And then that shift made me, like, everybody can't get it.
Yes.
Like, so I kind of, like, put self-worth on me in that part of me. And it's like, all right, bro, like, if it ain't no connection, then I'm not sleeping on anybody anyway.
But do you feel like it was, sorry to cut you off, but do you feel like it was like an ego thing? Like, let me see how many women, like, I can sleep with? Or you was just...
So, I don't know. I think for some people it's an ego thing. I don't think it's an ego thing. I think that it's one of those things that, even from our childhood, so I think that a lot of people don't understand that as men, like, the way we got a lot of respect from growing up is the more women you had, actually, the more respect you had. So for me, like, when I was in the neighborhood, if I always had a girl, or even I was, like, walking with a girl, coming with a girl, like, all the old heads was just, like, I'm good. Yeah. So I've never been bothered. They're like, oh, yo, like, he getting all the women, da-da-da. So I think it come with that. To me, it was a connection with, like, women and respect, too. So not so much of, like, how many women I can get, to be honest with you. But at the same time, you start realizing that, like, you causing damage here and there. Not just to them, but even to myself, to be honest with you. Because it's, like, I'm just draining my energy with these women for no reason, and then it leads to, like, other things.
Yeah, because it is like a spiritual exchange, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like people don't really put that into account, but, like, when you sleeping with these people, like, you're literally having, like, these soul ties, you know, maybe not with everybody, but a lot of times, like, you're transferring your energy, and even though you might not want them to, like, touch you or whatever afterwards, but like you said, like, they're feeling rejected now, you know, they've also put their energy into you, so then they're walking away, like, feeling, they might be bringing on whatever feelings of, you know, I don't know at the time where you were mentally, but they might have been walking away, like, however you were feeling, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that tie in to those things. I feel like a lot of times we don't put that into account, but...
Yeah, I think even if you're not sleeping with them, I just think, you know, what I learned is, like, you still give me energy away to a person. So, like, whether you sleep with them or not, even, like, spending time with them. So that was even a thing for me. It was just, like, just me giving them that attention. They was taking me farther away from, like, my purpose or farther away from the things I want to do. And it just made me even think about, you know, David in the Bible, where, like, when I think about David, when he slept with Bathsheba, like, it's like he should have been out. Like, God gave him a purpose to fight, right, and go to war, and he should have been doing that. And even if he was resting, he could have been making a plan or strategizing or something about what we're going to do next or what we're going to do. Right. But instead, because he kind of got distracted, or he took a break from his purpose, then he opened himself up for the distraction. So now he looked over, he saw her, and then he lusted for her, whatever the case is. But actually, he just wasn't walking in his purpose at that time. And then he put himself in a position to do that, and then it led him to a series of other mistakes. So then after that, now he said, you know what? Dang, I got to try to fix this. So let me see if I can get Uriah to come back real quick and speak with her and cover it up. Then that didn't work. And he like, dang, all right, well, then maybe I'm going to have to kill him. I'm going to have to get him killed. Let me just send him to the front line, to the hardest, you know, wars I can find. So it was just like this one thing led to all these things. I think that's what happened to a lot of us. It's like we get away from our purpose and we allow the distractions to take us off, and then it leads us to a series of mistakes, and we start spiraling down this thing. So, like, I think that's kind of, even for me, like, that's what happened. Like, I realized, like, every time I do something, whether it's with women or anything, drinking, gambling, because was doing everything, and it's like it just was taking me farther and farther away from who I wanted to become. And then when I started to remove these things and bring these things up, that's when I started seeing, like, the fruit of my life. That's when my life really started changing. So it wasn't that I started, like, doing things new. It was actually that I started, like, subtracting things that I was holding on to. So even we was talking about earlier, and it's really like this idea of, like, you holding something in your hand, but you want something. So I want a certain level of success, or I want this business to do this way, but I can't get it because I'm holding on to these things. So I'm holding on to the bottle, I'm holding on to the gamma, I'm holding on to the women. So my hand is closed. But once I let it go and I let those things go, now God can place the other blessing in my hand that he got for me when I start doing the things I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I love that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Amen.
That's a good joy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think that's really important. I feel like, a lot of times we feel like we can hold on to everything, but we really can't. Like, it really does hinder us to hold on to those things. And we be knowing, like, certain things don't be serving us, you know what I mean? But we think, like, okay, even if I just bring it down a little bit, you know what I mean? Let me not drink as much, or let me not sleep with as many women. But it's like, it's still pretty much the same thing, you know what I mean? Like, you're still holding yourself back, maybe not in the same amount, but you're still, holding yourself back from getting those blessings. That stuff's still in your hands. So.
Well, you don't have the ability to forgive yourself for the things that you may have done. I feel like that can be a crutch as well, because it just plays into so many other areas when you try to set boundaries, reassessing your boundaries, setting a standard higher for yourself. Your mind will constantly bring you back, well, I used to sleep with these women before, I used to sleep with these men before, so, I mean, hey, but I think, really, having the ability to forgive yourself was a key part of my healing journey as well, because even spiritually, we know that the Bible talks about that we don't even have the right as people to condemn ourselves like that.
Yeah, and that's something that we hold on to, like, in our hands, the guilt, the shame, you know what I mean? Those things we hold on to, and it's like, until we give ourselves, like, the permission to move forward, you know what I mean? Or to be our authentic selves. It's like, you gotta let go of that. Like, what happened, you know what I mean? You can only do what you knew at the time. So now that you know better, like, do better.
Yeah, no, I actually think, so forgiveness is the hardest thing to do, but it's the most powerful thing you can do. So even when you go further in the book, you'll see I talk about this thing. Like, I think that's the key. So that was the biggest key for me. So I know earlier you talked about, like, the blame game. And, like, once I was able to get past that, like, that was actually a really big shift for me. So once I stopped blaming, like, and it's like people do things to you. So I was blaming my mom, my dad, maybe coaches, and stuff really did happen. But at the same time, it's like, all right, like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Or whatever the case is. Because what happened is, like, the more I blame, my mom, my dad, the coach, the city, like, the more power I give to it. But once you, like, take that ownership, like, you really get a power. And then, like, I think, a lot of times when I was walking around the city, like, I felt real heavy. Like, I was carrying a bunch of, like, luggage or something. And then once I was like, you know what? Like, I forgive myself. I start forgiving my father. I start forgiving my mother. I start forgiving my grandma. I start forgiving this person, that person. Like, I got lighter and lighter and lighter. And things start happening. So I think, like, forgiveness is, like, real big. And I think that's the key, actually, to everything. So, like most people block is this. Like, most people block is, like, they won't forgive something, whether it's their self or a person that did something to them. And they so kind of, like, they got so much anger and resentment to it. And then when you're in that place, like, you can't really thrive. Like, when you come from a place of, like, resentment, and you kind of, like, focusing on, like, all the things that you lack or kind of what happened to you. So it's, like, kind of, like, getting out of that space. And, like, so even in the book, when I'm talking about, like, these invisible, because they're invisible barriers, like, you can't see them. And you build them up, like, over time. Like, something might have happened to you. Like, and then you're like, damn, let me do this to protect myself. But then what ended up happening is, like, over time, they really be more restrictive. They stop you from being your authentic self. So, like, you can talk about relationships. Like, you get in a relationship, you might have a heartbreak. But now, are you just not going to open up ever again? But then you'll tell yourself, like, I want a family and I want kids. I want to get married. But in order for you to get to that point, you have to be willing to be vulnerable enough to be open to get hurt again.
Yeah.
Same thing in business. Like, you might have a business project, and then the business project don't go as you planned. You might fail. And then it's like, are you going to say, damn, like, I'm never going to ever put myself out there again? Right? Well, you can do that. You can keep it safe like that. But then if you don't ever put yourself out there to fail, then you're never going to be able to maximize your potential.
Exactly.
It's this thing I say to myself, and it's a little simple, it's a little repetitive, but I say, I love myself unconditionally. I forgive myself unconditionally. I love myself unconditionally. Thank you. Thank you. Period.
Yeah, I love that. One thing, not to say like what we all tell ourselves, but I have no rain, no flowers tatted, and it's like it's just like a reminder, like with those things, if we don't go through the hard times, we don't go through like those business failures, those heartbreaks, we can't see the good things. Like we're not gonna be able to see how good it's really gonna get. You know what I mean? So it's like finding gratitude in those times, you know, those hard times. I feel like that's something that really, really helps me. And when it's all about perspective. When you look at it that way, you know, Tiara, she talks a lot about like alchemy and stuff like that. Like turning those painful moments into our power, and you know, just diving into that.
Important. This is another book, and this is going to be in my collection now. It's another book called The Untethered Soul. And that book is stunning, to say the least. But it talks about, like, just having your heart open no matter what you go through, which is alchemy at its finest, you know. Being able to have been through all these experiences and still have your heart open to receive more and risk and open yourself for risk. You know, it's all a part of the human experience. So that just made me think about that when you said that. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think all these things like really like tie in together, and then it's just like us being able to, like you said, let these shields down, because it's like we hold them up, but it's like we're holding up the shield to protect us, but it's really like blocking the blessings. You know what I mean? Like it's like you got, like you said, you gotta let go of those things to get like what you need. So it's important.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of times we be like, well, what if this happened, or what if, and then it's like I'm learning to be like, what if I do get the opportunity? What if, like how you share about your passport, what if I do literally walk into this office and I get handed my passport? Like thinking about what if in a positive perspective versus a negative perspective.
Yeah, like our minds hold so much power. Like all is mind. Like we literally have so much power in our minds. But when, you know, we're accustomed to, you know, people that don't know the power of their minds, they're fueling us our whole lives. But, oh, don't jinx that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a big one. Like, oh, don't talk about that because you want to jinx it. But, like, no, we need to believe that we can get these things to really switch it up.
I think it's about changing the narrative, right? So, like, I was thinking about this today, too, and it's like people give us these narratives, or society give us this narrative, and then, like, we'll believe so much into the narrative that we start providing evidence to support that narrative. And a lot of times it's in a negative state or a negative sense. So we'll tell ourselves, like, oh, no, that's not for me, or I can't do that, or people like us can't have that. And it's like, if people don't understand how, like, powerful the mind is. Like, if you literally just kind of, like, change your perspective and just say that a little bit different, like, you can really speak power to yourself, like you were saying. So, like, they're telling us, like, well, don't share that with these people and don't do this. And it is important because, like, I think when you're around certain people, everybody not ready to hear it.
Yeah. And
because of the space they in, they might give you some negative energy. And that's why it's important to get around the right community. So, like, I can share my win with you and say, yo, guess what I just did?
Right.
We might be able to bounce.
And you're going to be like, damn, that's what's up. Yeah. But then some people might be like, they might take it a different way. So I think that's why it's important. But at the same time, like, it's just really important to, like, speak to yourself the right way. So it's always important. Like, it's just, I read this book before. It's called, you know, What to Say to Yourself, or like the words that you say to yourself, and like how it's important. And it talked about how I'll get the author for you. And it talked about like how many times you hear no in your life. So basically, like your whole life, you're just hearing no. So your mom is telling you like, can I do this? No. Can I get McDonald's today? No. Can I do this? Can I go outside? No. So every time you do something, like somebody telling you no. So now you gotta learn to say like yes to yourself to so many things, because like you're programmed. I know I talked about like doing NLP, and what that is like I basically like rewiring, you know, your thought process.
I love that.
Like, you're literally programmed to do so many things. So you're programmed to say, no, I can't do this, or no, I shouldn't do this, because that's what you've been told your whole entire life. So like you got to start saying yes to yourself first. Like you got to start building up that thing. It's just like when you go into the weight room, and or any exercise or running. We talk about running because y'all run. It's like first you can't just run 4 miles.
Yeah.
You might gotta start off just running a couple hundred meters.
Yeah.
Then you build it up to 1 mile and 2 miles. And it's the same thing with when you're doing the inner work.
Yes.
You build it up small, and then you go like, and it's a muscle. And then you get it stronger and stronger. And now you can do more and more. But so many people, like, as soon as they get tough, they give up. Right?
Yeah.
They running and they fall, and they say, "Damn, I'm not doing this no more."
Yeah.
And one of the things you said, it's important for us to talk to ourselves, because it's like we have to be able to build that trust within ourselves and not always look for that outside opinion. Because like you said, we might not be in the right space. We got to be able to use discernment of who we get, certain opinions from. But if you are solid within yourself, you already know, like, this is how I feel. This is the plan. This is what we gonna do. But it's like, if you have like that sense of self, then it's like, all right, regardless of what anybody says to you, you're still gonna stay solid on your idea or whatever it is. But being able to talk to yourself first, having that relationship with yourself, that self-trust, that's a big deal.
So I was thinking about this book called You Are What You Think by David Dr. Stoop, somebody, but it talks about all your self-talk and how you talk to yourself. But I just can't stop thinking about your book. And I wanted to ask, at what point in your life did you, what made you, what inspired this? Tell me about it.
So I always talked about writing a book. Like, to be honest with you, I always said I was gonna write a book, and then so I was in China, and then the thing that really inspired me is it was like a relationship with my dad. To be honest with you, so I was asking myself, I was trying to talk to my dad or communicate with him, and then we both kind of in this way where we just don't reach out. So then I was asking myself, damn, why don't I reach out, or why don't I do this thing? And it's like, damn, maybe my dad got this, he got a fear of rejection. He don't want to reach out and it's not receptive. Then maybe I got the same thing where I'm like, I want to reach out and then it's not reciprocated the way I want it to be. So it's like, damn, we put up this wall and be like, yo, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So honestly, that was the one shift.
Okay.
And then the funny thing is, my dad passed away on my birthday. Not funny thing, but
no, my condolences.
He passed away on my birthday. And then I'm like, damn, it made me think about to be honest, I would start thinking about his life, and I'm like, damn, what was he doing, and all these things like this. And I was like, damn, I said I was gonna write a book, so I need to do it. So it was more one of those things where I was like, I just feel like when you say you're gonna do something, you should do it.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know how much time you got.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case is. So that was it. And then I started thinking about all right, what am I gonna write about? To be honest with you. And I was thinking about all the things I go through. So I started thinking about, like I said, why am I not reaching out to my family? Why do I'm a loner? Why I moved all the way across the country and do these things? And then why even in my relationships, I'm not letting a person all the way in? And I'm like, well, what did I do? And I was like, all right, I built up this wall. And I'm like, all right, well, I built this wall, but why did I build the wall up? All right, because this can happen, or because this happened before, I got my heart broken before, or because I trust this person to let me down. And it's like, but damn, now I can't really get that real feeling because I'm holding on to protecting it, whatever case it is. So that's how I came with the concept of the iron armor paradox, because it's like a paradox. It's like you needed that protection at one time, but then I don't need it no more, and it's like stopping me from getting what I really want in life. So that was that's how I came up with the title and the concept. And then after that, I just focused and said, all right, I'm going to write 500 words a day no matter what. No matter what I'm going to do for the next 3 months, I'm writing 500 words a day. Whether it's good or bad, I'm writing it. And that's what I got to do. And that's the only thing I focused on. And then in 3 months, the book was done, actually. I just had to, pick some stuff like that. But it only took me, a little over 3 months to write the book.
Wow.
And even with coming up with the cover, I really was thinking about myself. And I'm thinking about how I, meditate and journal, and how when you sit with yourself, you starting to, uncover pieces of you. So I think, because sometimes when people read this book, they thinking that I'm saying you should remove this armor. And sometimes it's certain armors that you need to let go of. But actually, it's more so of, reforging that armor. So that's kind of what happened, is, reforging that armor so you can be more fluid in life. So you can be, get fluidity, so you can get through life more easily.
And where could people get this book?
So you can get this book on my website, bradleyamartinwellness.com. You also can get it from my Instagram, which is bradleyamartin. So yeah, those two places. The ebook is also on Amazon, but I just think we're getting too far. We're getting too connected to technology. to be honest with you. So I'm
like
encourage people to get
different when you actually read the
It's
book.
so
I
different.
just think it's a connection piece that you get when you actually touch something and feeling something.
Yeah.
So just encouraging people to actually get it and write it, and then it's like a lot of like questions at the end of the chapters, because I'm real big on reflection. So a lot of questions in there that's going to ask you, so you can identify like what your armor is, be aware of it, see like how it's affecting different areas of life, and then you can ultimately make the decision on whether you want to entirely let something go or reforge it to a new empowering armor, and things like that.
Okay, I love that. I just want to ask you one question before we wrap up. What is some advice that you would give to somebody who may not be fine on the inside, or maybe struggling with mental health or self-development, trying to get that armor off, or not completely, but what advice would you give them?
I think the first thing is like if you're in that space and you feel like that, like confront it and understand that like your internal world is actually, once you change your internal world, your external world will start to change. And I think a lot of us think it's the opposite. We think if we change something externally, like internally everything will be okay, and it's just not the truth. It's just like this this short-term thing. It's temporarily. So if you really want to change and you want it to be like lasting, like you got to change from within. All right, so you got to start doing things differently. So whether that's journaling, whether that's meditating, whether that's praying, like whether that's getting a coach or a therapist, like I would encourage you to like get with the right people and actually do the work, even though it feel uncomfortable and it feel different. Like on the other side of that uncomfortability is like endless possibilities. But if you continue to keep on doing the same thing over and over again, I can guarantee you that you're gonna stay in the same place that you're at right now.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. Candace, is there anything you want to add?
I just want to just really appreciate you. I think community needs men as an example. I feel like a lot of times the highlight is on women, but men are so important. So to see you and be able to sit next to you and be able to see your work and just know about you, it's really a privilege. And I just want to say thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Thank you, guys. And I think also like in this space, I do feel like this space is dominated by women. And I just think because it's this misconception, I'll just say this real quick, that like men, when it's time to do this type of work, to them it seems like soft or fluffy, but they don't really understand the connection it is. Like this is actually the thing that's really stopping you from getting to where you want to get to. Right. It's the inner work. But a lot of men think like, if I just grind harder, if I just work harder, things will change. Right. If I only can get this or only can do that, then I can make it. But no, the only truth is like if you really like start to look inward and change those real things about yourself, then you will start seeing like progress in your life.
Yeah, no, that's heavy. And I feel like, everybody should take that into account. And I have been trying to bring more men on the podcast. I think like you and my last guest, trying, just to open up that field, because, men do need to see that it is okay. It don't mean that you soft. Like, y'all hear me? It don't mean soft. But yeah. So
how you feeling? You feeling fine on the inside?
Yes,
I am. What about you?
Always.
All right.
You really be having me crack up. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Bradley, for coming on to the podcast. And thank you, Candace.
Yeah. So make sure you tune in to the next episode.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, y'all. Make sure y'all tune in to the next episode of Find on the Inside. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. And we will see y'all next time.